Hello and welcome to the 60th Radical Poetry Reading. I'm Malvika Jolly, Special Projects Associate here at the Rail, and today I have the pleasure and privilege of welcoming poet Cynthia Dewi Oka, who has lovingly curated a fantastic lineup of poets and readers today featuring Trapeta Mayson, Rajiv Mohabir, Airea D and Cortney Lamar Charleston. A few quick notes before we get started. Yeah, give it up for our wonderful reading group of the afternoon. A few quick notes before we get started. Firstly, we've started all of our events here at the Brooklyn Rail with two important acknowledgements. First is that here in New York, we're on Lenapehoking, the unceded land and waters of the Wappinger, Canarsie, Munsee, and Lenni Lenape people of the Delaware Nation and the Shinnecock Indian Nation. Part and parcel of this acknowledgement is the continued recognition that Black lives matter and that when it comes to our liberation, our histories never unfold in isolation. Secondly, here at the Rail, we're celebrating our 21st anniversary. It's a big year for us. So we're working on our first ever endowment campaign, which will ensure the continuity of our print edition of the Rail, alongside our public programming and other experiments in the arts, humanities, and sciences for generations to come. In that spirit, we encourage you to check out the chat where I'll drop a link of resources, links, and more info in just a moment. But now it's my honor to welcome our honored curator of this lunchtime. Poet Cynthia Dewi Oka is the author of Fire is Not a Country, a fantastic collection that I have on the way to my house right now. It was released just 2 days ago with Northwestern University Press. She's also the author of Salvage, a collection of poems which came out in 2017, and Nomad of Salt and Hard Water, which came out with Thread Makes Blanket in 2016. The recipient of the Tupelo Quarterly Poetry Prize and the Leeway Transformation Award. Her writing has been featured in The Atlantic, Poetry Mag, Academy of American Poets, the Rumpus, PANK, Guernica, and elsewhere. She's the creator of Sanctuary, a migrant poetry workshop for immigrant poets based in Philadelphia. She's tuning in today from Massachusetts, which she reached after a 5-hour drive in order to join us. And she's originally from Bali, Indonesia. Cynthia, take it away.
Thank you so much, Malvika. It's really, really great to be back. And this time as a curator. I was very, very honored and excited to be able to do this. And I've had a really great experience reading with the Brooklyn Rail in the past. So thank you for creating this space. When I was thinking about the concept or the frame of the radical in poetry for this reading, I wanted to kind of I wanted to bring together a community of poets who I consider radical in their method, process, and mode of attention, if that makes sense. I feel like we live in a very content obsessed era. Like we're all like doing free work for Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. And I wanted to bring together folks who practice radicalism in their craft, in the sense that I am a believer in practice as the thing that changes us, that makes other things possible, and also practice being something that can really bring people together across many backgrounds, across many differences. So I think about like practice as a bridge, if that makes sense. And so we have here, and I will introduce them more before they read, but Trapeta, someone who I really see as a gatherer of community, as someone who like witnesses and holds space for the everyday, and a poet who has like a way of encountering the world, and particularly those who are rendered invisible or marginal in the world as holy. And I really admire that so much in her work. Rajiv, someone who I consider like a traveler, like a time traveler, both backwards and forwards and like horizontally across just histories of rupture, conquest, often erasure. I see him revisit and work to undo the violences that language made possible. Airea, really, really dear friend. I have so much admiration for the combination of intuition and intellect that she brings together. I think like she's like the representation of like, if y'all do tarot, like I think of her as like the high priestess. Um, but she like brings these things together to see the world more precisely, more possibly, and is really a sculptor of language. I think with her poems, you're just as likely to get an urn as you're likely to get a knife. It's incredible. And Courtney, someone who I've really, really admired for a long time, and I kind of basically when I had the opportunity to curate this reading, I was just like, this is my chance. This is my chance to get Courtney in the room. And I see in his practice just like a deep commitment to like freedom, but it's not the, kind of classical American freedom of doing whatever you want, but freedom as responsibility, freedom as care, freedom as the capacity to change. So this is the reason why I brought these four incredible poets together. And with that, I'm going to introduce more deeply, I guess, Trapeta, who happens to also be Philly's 2020-2021 Poet Laureate. She's received many, many arts grants, including the Pew Fellowship in Literature, the Leeway Transformation Award. And Trapeta, I hope it's okay to also congratulate you for the news this week. This week, we heard that Trapeta and another former poet laureate of Philly, Yolanda Wisher, are co-recipients of $100,000 huge, incredible grant from Monument Lab. I believe it is the Regeneration Grant, and it's for their project Consensus, which is going to be a love letter, a project that is a love letter to Black women poets in Philly. So how incredible. Cannot wait to see how it rolls out and support you in any way possible. So with that, I'm passing it on to Trapeta.
Yes, thank you so much, Cynthia. Thanks for your generosity, for bringing us together. And I'm just honored to read with everyone, Airea, and all the folks that I don't know really well also, but I'm just really happy to be here and to share in this day in the reading. So we're talking about, radical and subversive. And I think sometimes one of the most radical things that we can do is love and celebrate ourselves. So I know we were asked, I'm going to share 4 poems with you, but I wanted to just share a couple lines from Lucille Clifton's poem, Won't You Celebrate With Me? Because I do think that that is, just an example for me of just radical love. And Lucille Clifton says, won't you celebrate with me what I have shaped into a kind of life? I had no model. Born in Babylon, both non-white and woman, what did I see to be except myself? I made it up here on this bridge between starshine and clay, my one hand holding tight my other. Come, celebrate with me that every day something has tried to kill me and has failed. Yeah, Sister Lucille, so let's give it up for that. So I'm going to share 4 pieces with you. And I write about immigrant experience. I came to America when I was really young, but I also write about growing up in North Philadelphia and Germantown, and I write about those experiences. So my 4 poems I'm going to share are going to be 2 from the Liberia side or the immigrant story, and 2 that are really quite present now. So the first piece I'm going to read is called Send Off. Daughters, our country, for all its promise, tends to eat its young. If you remain here, some round-bellied old man will mince you, will clean his teeth with your corpse. Look how they roam the villages to claim their bedmate, how they yank one daughter and then another, waving their small prey like bush meat. See how they pluck them right off the road and out of the school halls even before they ripen. See how they beckon the college ones lining the streets, flag them down, usher them into SUVs for hair weave, high heels, or school fee. You're going to America now. Forget who you were and think only of who the visa you hold says you are. Your entrance in that place is a gift. It is a present many of us can't even hope to open. Live quiet there, Ma. Make something of yourself and for all our daughters to follow. Be something more than breast and butt and taut stomach for gluttonous men to rest their woolly heads. Daughter, we send you off. Our hearts are heavy like pregnant gut, like swollen Liberian plums. We have sown our wishes in the seams of your flesh. Your skin will grow so tough that jawbones will break when they try to gnaw. You are our map, and when you return, we will study you. For now, we send you off, clutching our country cloth. Our mouths follow you, daughters, lovingly art in oval pleas of go, go, go. And the next piece I'm going to share is a piece called First World Problems. And there's a saying, it begins with a saying we have in Liberia, come stay with me and come live with me are two different things. Okay. My niece called me from the third world, not to tell me that the water and electricity was off again, or to ask me for money for gas for the generator, not to ask for copybooks and shoes for the children, not to tell me the zinc peeled off the roof in the rainstorm, not to cry about the marches for wicked men to stop raping children, or to tell me that the plums are so ripe they're bursting and rotting on the rain-soaked ground from abundance. She called to ask me if I was safe here in this first world country. She witnessed the murder of a man on television. She saw a knee pressed into the soft creases of the man's neck. She heard that he had asked for his mother. My niece is a mother. She has two sons in the third world. My sister is a mother. She has two sons in the first world. My niece watched the video, stunned. She asked me to consider coming back to the third world, asked me to consider leaving the first world just for a spell to rest. All the way from the third world over the WhatsApp call, she asked me to come home. My niece said, take time there, Auntie. My niece said, your life not worth much in that place. And my third piece, I hope everybody's doing well. It's kind of, different and strange in the Zoom world. I can feel your energy and I thank you for that. This is a poem that I wrote after viewing John Dowell's. He has a collection called Cotton. And in Cotton, John takes these photos and superimposes them with cotton, and he has this rich collection about cotton. And I wrote a piece from one of his photos called Sometimes They Would Not Bury Us. And it was talking about in upstate New York, how sometimes Blacks, African-American were not allowed to be buried in the burial ground. So I wrote a poem in response to that, and it's called Home Going for the People of the Sun. When they would not bury us, we held our homegoings, and in our leaving, we were still luminous. We were holy and spirited, bones and flesh, sweat and sacrifice, artfully handled till we resembled ourselves, venerated and gilded in Sunday best, going to meet our maker with flair, reposed and encased in our new home among our watch night folks, keeping wait. They were a weeping in the morning through the night, then at daybreak our own laid us to rest. They were a weeping in the morning through the day, and singing and clapping our earthly selves away. And even when they would not bury us, we had our homegoings, our people digging with shovels and pickaxes and love deep into the earth's grooves, down past the sod, parting the soil to tunnel under the dirt of this land to carry us home. Don't need your 6 feet under hypocrisy to tell us we are human. We got our big mamas humming us a sweet tune to carry on us over to the promised land. Don't need your lopsided trinity the Father and the Son, but no Black spirit. We know we consecrated. We know we light. See us floating like cotton above your burial grounds. See us rising like cotton above your sin and broken commandments. We are the people of the sun. We go home too, and in our homegoing, there are chariots and pomp. And my last poem I'll share, and I want to thank you for listening. Again, Cynthia, thank you for inviting me. It's called Monuments to Brown Boys. And this also was written in response to Karen Olivier's mirror image in Vernon Park over the monument. The artist installed a mirror over the monument and the people have come to gawk. Rubberneckers wonder what was there before. You have come too, laying in the cut, statue still for seconds, your reflection edging off a 20-foot-high bronze-looking glass. You are an alluring hunk of stone beguiling me. Yes, you, brown boy, rough-cut monolith. I see you. You are a low-slung, jean-wearing grandmother greeting pillar, an obelisk marking the entrance of your hood. You need to be somebody's memorial. And not only when you laid out and lowered in the dirt, a cold stone, a cold slab, your footstone, your pillow, a marble headrest of past tense. He was, he once, he lived. No, you are now and present, alive and in color, and you need to be somebody's walking shrine, somebody's testament, somebody's tribute in this city. You have to be carved, stretched, and erect, a column to buttress boogeymen, the phantoms they say you imagine, the specters and goblins who tow bullets, and policies and laws that encase you. You need to be somebody's memento. Look how you're beaming off that seeing glass. I'm catching your shine. Look at that swagger you carrying, hoodie wearing, fresh fade, having full teeth grinning. You need to be somebody's something to fight for, somebody's celebration, somebody's stone turned monument carved and smooth, somebody's masterpiece in this here city. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Wow. When I said yes, I would introduce people. I didn't really, I mean, I will try to do a good job. I just feel like very affected by these poems. Thank you so much. Thank you, Trapeta. Okay, up next, we have Rajiv Mohabir. I go way back with Rajiv to like my very first poetry workshop ever in 2009 at Bona in California. Rajiv is a poet, scholar, translator extraordinaire. He has 2 books out this year, the newly released poetry collection Cutlish, and the memoir Anti-Men, which received the New Immigrant Writing Award from Restless Books. Prior books, because you want to experience his body of work, include The Taxidermist Cut, which received the 2014 Intro Prize in Poetry by Four-Way Books, and The Cowherd's Son, which received the 2015 Kundiman Prize. Rajiv, take it away.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me here. I'm so excited to be with these wonderful poets who I've admired for forever. I'm going to be reading from my book Cutlish, and I'm going to be doing I was trying to do some screen sharing, but it was like really funky on my end, but it's probably better without. The first poem that I'm going to read is kind of a definitional poem. Cutlish is a Guyanese or a rural Guyanese recasting of the word cutlass. And cutlass in the Caribbean is, if you know, it's a machete. You know, this object of labor, stolen labor, forced labor, as well as violence. And so my book is titled after this. I'll begin with this, and I'll run into a transcription of my grandmother telling me the story of where we're from before I move into the next poems. Cutlish. Cutlish, noun. 1. Cutlass. 2. British blade, machete. 3. Colony blister of cane knife. 4. Demerara brown sugar. 5. kidneys, toes, eyes. 6. 7. Eldorado rum rot. Bhagavati, my Aji, opens a cream soda bottle with her teeth. She pours it into a glass and mixes it with tinned milk. Long time this whole place been a bush all about. Abiteka kotlesh and cleanam. Courtney slips from her head. Beta, me come from India. When me Aja and Aji left Calcutta for Coma Guyana, me Aji been pregnant and me papa born in the ship. You know, long time you come in a boat named Jahaj, the same big ship will come from India. They just call Mati Jahaji. The people were come from the boat. This side people, the English, the white man from this side, say, let Abi go a Guyana, or Abi go a Trinidad or anywhere else that side. And you know, you go get job and you go dig good, and 1-2 years after, you go come back. So they fool them people and bring them come. How they catch them? They've been tell them that Abi go another country and you go get plenty job. You go get enough money from cut cane. And you go live happy. And India, them been a punish. Work today, you get food for today. And you know tomorrow they must starve. So them been a hunted to come away. And when them bring them not get house, them not get nothing, them a cut cane, them a punish bad. But what are you go do? When me family been come this country, them been a very poor. All India man been a poor, none have been rich. And these are my actual grandmother's words that I transcribed. Fast forward into my generation. This is called the Poco Kid, as in the post-colonial kid. And this is a chutney poem based on the form of chutney music. If you're familiar with Caribbean music, it's a syncretic form that blends Caribbean Hindustani language and Indian beats with Afro-Caribbean soca and reggae rhythms. So this poem is derived from that syncretism. So the chorus will be in Caribbean Hindustani. The Poco Kid. Matahit logan bol na sake hai, darasan nahi maral murjake. Let's get one thing clear. I'm no Sabu-like sidekick. I'm the main drag. Ram Ram in a sari. Salam on the street. I don't speak Hindu, Paki, or Indian. Can't control minds. Have no psychic powers. I clip my yellow nails at dusk. On Saturday nights, I shave my head. Forgive me, Shiva. Forgive me, Saturn. I'm coolie on Liberty Ave, Desi in Jackson Heights, where lights spell out season's greetings to cover Christmas, Diwali, and Eid. Where white folks in ethnic aisles ask, will your parents arrange your bride? While Ma and I scope out fags, gaff and laugh while aunties thread our eyebrows. The subaltern cannot speak. Representation has not withered away. And that last bit is a translation of the first couplet that we heard. And that comes from Gayatri Spivak. Can the subaltern speak? The next thing that I'm going to do is I've never actually, I haven't yet read this aloud since this book has come out into the world, and I'm going to read it for you today. It's called Coolie Oddity, and it's a strange one, so bear with me in the music and the sounds here. And what I will say is that it's dedicated to Rukmini, who was a hijra transgender person who made the passage from India to the Caribbean. Coolie Oddity. Jahaji opened palms and veins, cane leaf, palm tree, Arcot talk. We, Jesus, water, your sweat into gold. And in the part, blood, an ocean gasp, spit salt. Haze, cape, and southern populations, foam and shadow under surf, is. Pati's ghost, hemorrhaging birth, trauma, absolute, shoulders broad back, boarded back, and Bach in barracks, and Psalm blistered with soot and mud in Skeldon. The crapo spit pond upon trench, and coca close and open, its malaria-mouthed yawn. Her arms covered in tattoos, names of men. See the grass warp into cane straws, sucking water and sweat. He cries out for you, Sriji, drops a smile. Confused by Hindu sense of time, the Kalpas and Kalis who destroy all but Kalki who rides the horse, who could celebrate May 5th as Indian Arrival Day, that day when our contracts with destitution began, and I've stopped expecting teleological refrains or a timestamp or any indication of what cycle I am on other than a folk song, which keeps time and tells us what is new or different based on the fading of Hindi or the greatening of English, either through word substitution or by inclusion of a paratactic chorus, or like how the word anti-man stands in for hijra but means gandu. Ritual. Spill milk in the water, a white ghost against brown, pills of sea men flake off hair chest, fuck off just here and demand a vex, Gwanda side, abidis gana foreign, typed right here, lings, luns, lolos under saris, under orthnies, magistrates check for dicks, lift sheets of men at night, the stink of charred foreskin, sodomites, so they may dole punishment with brands, and it's why we left our fossey. This is where they cleft our ulnas, why Mama and Pupa hold the Bible tight, tight. In the cane fields fed by hacked corpses, queers lost queers to missions, evil and gist. Read oddity for odyssey, a lesson, an identifier, to Christian identitize. Anti-ras, bati boy man, ganduwala. Anti-man, the Lord Jesus tell me you just take man on Sunday and never go to church. You're nasty for days, come out the house, the police can't save you. How I love a man stock, Cain ousted and death most certain. See this mark? A bow strung of sari silk, strands of your hair, violence bowed into blossoms. A bow strung of sari silk, strands of queer hair, violin bowed into blossom. The skin, a beak parts, a river lulls like flame tongue, a sugar field scored with coolie notes, cleft with salt. Stop, stop, Sriji, Shiva Fox Mohini. Men raise offerings daily to this mighty prick. First worship, then worship the cock again. My body's a packet of Demerara on a Jaipur table. Rip me open. Queer me split with your teeth. A cane stalk will spit from my lips. Thank you.
Oh my God, Rajiv, it was amazing to hear that. I mean, I like devoured Cutlish. So it's been what a pleasure to hear it in your voice, the musicality, like it just kind of adds like this entire layer to my experience of the book. So thank you so much. All right, up next, I am very excited to introduce Airea D. Matthews, poet, professor, priestess, because alliteration. She is the author of Simulacra, which won the very prestigious 2016 Yale series of younger poets selected by Carl Phillips, and also was the recipient of a Rona Jaffe Foundation Writers Award. And last year, a recipient of a Pew Fellowship. I also know for a fact that she is currently completing an extraordinary manuscript of poems, because I got to read it. So I'm really, really excited to bring you into the space, Airea. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. And thank you everyone for having me here today. It's been a pleasure to hear both Trapeta and Rajiv this afternoon. Well, I can't think of a better way to spend an afternoon than just kind of be doused and drowned in words and music. And so thank you for the opportunity to be here, and thank you for the opportunity to share words. As I was putting together the reading today, I was starting to think about women and thinking about, I think a lot about Wisława Szymborska, who was a Polish poet and wrote one of my favorite poems called Lot's Wife. And I thought about the plot of the poem is that Lot's wife turned back to look at what they lost and then turned into a pillar of salt. But I tried to compare that story to the story of Eve and came up with this poem called Eviction. Eviction for Wisława. As if I created this pyramid of obey and mere exist, between the breath-turned stares of others also exiled, who called me all but my name. Unlike Lot's wife, I thought we were alone. So I reached for the only man I knew alive. Was love ever honest, Adam? Was Eden ever paradise? Who are these others? Cold silence, his mouth agape, eyes fixed to whatever yoke poured from me, amending the soil muddy where I stood. Above us, a burning vine descended like Jacob's ladder, consuming the stairs to heaven, glister by glister at the horizon. Due east, fly ash blanketed the morning glories I named last night, popped the night flocks I perfumed distant moons ago. Oh, these curses among women are not the same. One woman is buried beneath the salt of her witness with no body that remembers. One woman is her own witness with whatever body remains. American Ouroboros. This is a contrapuntal, so it's based on the kind of the musical form in which there's three pieces of music in one. So the contrapuntal as it's read on the page, there's a left panel, there's a right panel. The left panel is one poem, the right panel is another. When you read them together, they're entirely different poem, but they are in conversation with each other. This is American Ouroboros, kind of based on the symbol of the Ouroboros, which is the symbol that we've all seen probably at some point or another, where there's a snake that's eating his own tail in a perfect circle. My circle unsettles to write about being an imaginary, a mandala gone wrong, not a flag-draped snake, an absurd spectacle watching an infinite idea unraveling. But nobody speaks of a slithering country driven to madness. This explains how wildfires start with a poor man begging for holy heat while his cruel lover strikes a match. And it's nothing new now, is it? Supposed to be that other symbol, consuming its own tail. All these souls worship a misconstrued myth recoiling as the American way, wheeled by cognitive error and one burning rhetorical question. America, how do we keep warm in a room slowly filling with gas? My circle unsettles, and it's nothing new to write about now, is it? Being an imaginary, supposed to be a mandala gone wrong, that other symbol, not a flag-draped snake consuming its own tail in absurd spectacle, watching all these souls worship an infinite idea unraveling, a misconstrued myth recoiling. But nobody speaks of a slithering as the American way. Country driven to madness, wheeled by cognitive error, and this explains how wildfires start with one burning rhetorical question. A poor man begging for holy heat. America, how do we keep warm? While his cruel lover strikes a match in a room slowly filling with gas. This next poem is based, actually I wrote Hanif and shared this poem with Hanif actually some time ago, but it was a poem that was written in response to one of his poems, which started about Black people writing about flowers. So this is called His Eye is on the Sparrow. I guess Black people can write about flowers at a time like this, since every poem turns on itself, starts one way to end another. We see it in nature too. How seed turns to leaf regardless of its earth, or the thought inside my head blossoms into a hyacinth with as sweet a scent. Like how in dreams, thoughts pretend cousin, I see Mamie Till often. She walks the church aisle toward her son's body while wisteria bloats the casket's brim and papered bougainvillea bracts emerge where his eye once was. An entire garden from the nutrients of human soil. And not to mention all those old birds that circle Emmett's pillowed corpse. So many in the tabernacle, not harbingers of his God's descent, not refugees fleeing his body exilic, but ecstasy's messengers. We, living, confuse eternity's irony. Where death's concerned, we stay, living. Nevertheless, a Black ecstatic ode. Praise to the father holding his sleeping daughter on the 52nd Street trolley, to the daughter sleeping through the pothole thrum. Praise to the diabetic with shorn feet and sugarcane blood, to the shooting nerve through the left hip and lower spine, to those flying gods on their routes. Praise to the redheaded Rasta in his ganja lace t-shirt, to the Vietnam vet at Cass Corridor holding his sign, to the sign which reads, not homeless, just Black. Praise to the barbers trying to calm the fatherless in their chairs, to the mothers trying not to overhear the soothing to soothing. Praise to raised skylines and ruins, to whatever replaces the horizon. To the lost toddler who refused to speak to strangers, to the strangers who would not let him be lost. Praise to sisters in love with whomever won't love them, to others in love with whomever won't bother. Praise to the lovers who left lessons, the lovers who left scars. To the memory of topography, raised surface smooth to touch. To id's porcelain shards and ego's fringed edges, to the unrecalled, to the misremembered. Praise to boys who make beeswax fingernails, to little girls who wear fatigues and eye black. Praise to Miss Toto, Bambi Banks, Pearl Harbor, to bombs that never landed, to satellites that could not be coaxed to Earth, to dreams and bodies that won't hold a lie. Praise to beauty that doesn't suffer rules, to dollar store chic and sleek vintage tins, to type 2 wave and type 4 curl, to wanting to be, to being. Praise to love's resurrection, to incising shame's jugular. Praise to 7 ways pussy hallelujahs. Praise to the fingertips, 5 of the 7. Praise to every nipple manic and downtrodden, to the cock eschewed and the cock swallowed, to le petit mort and box spring bang, to the frictive giving way to sublime, to the littered freeway and ordered garden, perfect parts and locks and press and knots, the impermanent and dead end, to Mickey Moto and Medusa's rocks, to motherfucking slingshots. Praise to the hard-won win against Kronos, to the stone wrapped in swaddling, the psychotic eaglet safe in hiding, the featherless sirens fostering sea families, to the eye uncrossed, uncrowed. Praise to the overlooking, to the overlooked. Praise to boot houses, to children running over frayed laces. Praise to the old kitchen, half gutted, its gnats and winter flies. Praise to mice hugging sweet corners. Praise to that which endures, to old doors, layers of paint, to years of storm beating solid oak. Praise to the gable roof that is a ceiling, coffered ceiling that is also a floor. Praise to open wombs and caskets, to any mother who must decide either. Praise to what shoulders weight, to brackets and load-bearing walls, beams and spindly skeletons, sacred geometry and tangents, to levees and pregnant summers, to the bullet-ridden body, to coil spring, to wheel, to the crown and seed lowering, to both the thorny and fertile soil. Praise to the ground unfastening, to every earthworm's bristle and every seraph's 6 wings, interlocked in song waltz of welcome, to the body relenting only to dust, the spirit ascending straightway to stars. Praise to all who transform in becoming, to all who rejoice in return. Thank you for listening.
You are an oracle. So thank you so much. That is literally all I am capable of saying right now, Dee. So incredible. Thank you. I am going to pass it now to Cortney Lamar Charleston, poet, artist, activist, the recipient of a Ruth Lilly and Dorothy Sargent Rosenberg Fellowship from Poetry Foundation, as well as the Pushcart Prize, and many other recognitions. His first collection, Telepathologies, was honored as the 2016 Saturnalia Books Poetry Prize. And his second book, Doppelgangbanger, which is like, what an amazing title, is out this year. It was published in February, I believe, so go get yours. He is also a poetry editor at the Rumpus. And like I said, I've been a longtime fan, so excited to hear you, Courtney.
Thank you, Cynthia. Let me just start off with thanks, right? Thank you to Brooklyn Rail for making space for us today. Thank you to Cynthia for, bringing us into that space, all of these wonderful poets. Thank you to my fellow readers this afternoon, Trapeta and Rajiv and Airea. Thank you all for filling this space with rhythm and revelation. And thank everybody who I can't see who's out there joining us today, who's taking this all in, listening and really fellowshipping with us in spirit and in word. I appreciate all y'all. I'm actually gonna go ahead and read a few poems. These are all poems I'm like working through right now. It's all work that's like very like current and that I'm still figuring out. And but it feels like a good space to bring that to with y'all today. And so I hope you enjoy it and take something from it. And if you don't, like, feel free to like, you can tweet at me, be like, bro, what was you thinking? Like, it's okay. I'm not gonna take offense. Just, you can let me know that too. But it just feels, like the right thing to, the right vibe to go with some newer stuff. So, all right, I'll cease prefacing. It's important I remember that there are several ways to kill houseplants. Watering too much, watering too little, not providing enough sunlight, or providing too much, letting cold air overcome them. With concern pitched at the right octave, the green gangly things will survive, if not thrive, alongside us, and thus far, ours are holding on to dear life. I can tell by the way she pencils in their height against the wall over time that there is an act of substitution at play. The kind of thing that makes me dream of what's to come, even if I know there will be so many more complicating factors, so much less room for error. In the streets outside our shoebox, the people shout, quoting a Greek poet, "They tried to bury us. They didn't know we were seeds." As they pass by, headed toward City Hall, masked by cloth and by night. A flower bud is startled open on our windowsill, to her genuine delight. But I'm elsewhere, fiddling with the thermostat, panicked over a single degree of difference, as if. It's important, I remember, that enslaved people married here, scaled the summit of ovation in one leap over that solemn broom, swept demons away, were swept up and into a scheme of tender mercies, salve for souls frayed like a singular allowance of cloth by field labor under son and overseer. In those days, if death parted you from your beloved, then you were blessed beyond belief, being that license for the ceremony was recorded on a cloud that came close enough to the earth to stain with fingertips. When he parted you, you were parted. When the white man of white men spoke the words, it was as if the continent split, the countenance split, an ocean's worth of salt water spilled into every sort of separation now surfacing on the human face. A man's, a woman's, a child's, like both and like neither. But one point to make in favor of advancement is that we can say goodbye on our own terms now, on good terms or bad. Though you and I hold out hope that our magical evening will be when the shaky ground beneath us is reconciled for good, like the broken bond of a bone. Contracts have been signed, checks have been cut, and hard-earned cash withdrawn damn near out my ice cold hands. All that's left is to vow continuance in the face of every conflict and challenge that confronts us, contorts us into knots inside that mock the one we tied before God. Love, I'm as hefty as a sparrow can be and still be able to defy the law of gravity, soaring at the prospect of a promise, the dress I haven't laid eyes on delicately resting in a garment box in our closet next to the clutter of modern domesticity. I'm reflecting on all the bygone that I favor phenotypically when your own father's face crosses my mind like analog noise, and I anxiously twist my finger where a precious band is soon to be, easing back into the heaven we purchased on sale from West Elm, and turning on the TV, cable news, the white man of white men on screen, where I left him the night before, every night for years now. When he parts you, you are parted. That's what all the journalists say. Partly why some friends claim kids would be a particularly irrational decision. Yet I've insisted, and we've decided on first names, even if not a firm number, as we are descendants of dreamers who never saw black as black. We, an abundance they feared and abhorred. I love you in light of that dark past is so insufficient, so light on how we save each other each day. But it's all that I have to say. This is my singular allowance, a simple sleeve to wear on what might be called feelings, but more faithfully should be called faith. I think I'll read one more. I was debating between two, but I think I'll go with this one. Shout outs to all the Philly folk in the space today. It's important, I remember, that dropping a bomb on an occupied row house was unconscionable. But it happened here on American soil. West Philadelphia, 1985, the year most of the country remembers for the Chicago Bears Super Bowl shuffle, reducing the atrocity to a footnote of the Reagan years, the nation marching rightward, wearing a telegenic smile. The sky was blue that day, as blue as a cop or a Democrat's tie on the debate stage. Wilson Goode was Philadelphia's mayor then, Democrat, Black if you can believe it. And I can, because American racism is no stranger to blackface by face paint or by borrow. A bomb in a satchel bag. I can believe it, because I am Black actually. It fell from the sky like a Berlin care package back in '48. The sky that was as blue as a cop, after the police had already put tens of thousands of bullets through the building's walls. The bomb broke the row house. Flames broke out. The flames broke into the neighboring homes, like the thieves they were, until another 65 houses were stolen in one move. Move was the target, the alleged terrorists, though also the ones without a bomb to let fly bald-faced. Everybody in the row house was Move. Everybody in the row house was Africa. Everybody Black is Africa. Everybody Black was in that row house. That row house in the birthplace of the United States of America. 11 of 13 died, 5 children. One woman went to prison for not frying in the fire. She was not a cop, not anyone receiving pay from the city. She was Africa, so she was everybody Black. America bombed my house in a former life. America imprisoned me in a former life. America killed me, a child, in a former life. In 2008, when I touched down in Philly for school, Obama was running for president, a Chicago Democrat, Black, if you can believe it. I could see the smoke from the window as the plane descended to tarmac. I was reminded who I was, that I once lived in the birthplace of America until I was moved out, to put it mildly. Been on the move ever since, from body to body, everybody in Black. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Courtney. Love that last poem. Thank you so, so deeply. And finally, the woman of the hour. It's my pleasure to pass the mic now to Cynthia Dewi Oka. We first began collaborating with Cynthia here at the Rail almost 6 months ago when she was first a reader with Thomas Devaney on his beautiful radical poetry reading. And since then, she has been a consistent and constant presence, always deeply rigorous, always deeply brilliant, and extremely generous. Her introduction today, full of well-written bits of wisdom that build on each other, practice as the thing that changes us, radicalism as craft, and both together as a bridge, along with the fact that she composed it in the car while driving 5 hours from New Jersey back to Massachusetts to make this reading. They both speak worlds of that deep dedication to community, fellowship, and rigor. Cynthia, it's a blessing to have you. Her third collection, Fire is Not a Country, is a lyric portrait of her own family, bound and wrestled apart by multiple global histories. We cannot wait to read it. It came out just 2 days ago. Banu Kapil writes, I want literature that comes out of something other than literature, and it feels deeply that Cynthia meets this prompt by writing out of history, writing out of migration, writing out of displacement, and asking, what does the word history mean to us, and what does the history of the world mean to us? So it's such an honor to pass the mic now to you. Cynthia, take it away.
Wow, Malvika, thank you so much. That was really moving. Thank you. I also wanted to note how poetry readings are so special because of how much gratitude fills up the space. Like everyone here is thankful. And I just wanted to note that as well, as like that is part of the radicalism that poetry offers. It's like, this is how we take care of each other. We see, we listen, and we thank. So with that, I'm just gonna read 3 poems. 2 of them will be from the book, and then 1 of them is new. So speaking of history, just as Malvika was saying, I was born in Bali, Indonesia, which is probably like the most well-known location of Indonesia. Like most people will know Bali before they know of Indonesia, and is popularly advertised as paradise. And what many people don't know is, partly because our own government suppresses the information, is that in 1965, there was the genocide that took place in Indonesia. It was an anti-communist purging of up to 3 million people. And Bali was actually the worst site of the massacre. So there are mass graves actually under a number of resorts, and also continuing undiscovered yet sites of burial. And this is a poem that, because we are not able to speak freely about this history as Indonesians, this is what I wrote. Ode where milk was rare. Oh, what country, aphrodisiac even without her hair. Their praise a pink-thighed museum. Oh, unbearable roses. I sang to thorns in my wrists, throwing obdurate sand over my shoulder, and into the new hollows galloped horses made of sugar. Oh, self-discovery. The sand wants it, slithering through bare toes. How Airea, everything I touch, with the blue-green seams in my head. Oh, fumbling, brocaded benevolence, brides of the sea race to foam, madness on the rocks. Make me anklets, make me parachute. I'm reading the poem mosquitoes make, slap dead on a Coca-Cola night. Drink with me, shadows on the beach, while from the pan a snake pours white in iron light. Oh, noons, I was left alone with a shovel beyond that line of coconut trees. This next poem is new, and I want to actually, it's obviously for everyone, but I want to especially dedicate this to Malvika, actually, as the fellow immigrant daughter, and Trapeta as well. Poet, formerly known as activist, formerly known as child of God. Having lost my faith again in the given of an indifferent, discoverable order, wherein my injuries might be filed alphabetically, safe from tsunamis and termites in color-coded cardboard boxes labeled international relations, American history, political economy, the high priestess, so that they might emerge aromatic, lipsticked, the day I am at last called to the podium of the ultraviolet narrative that is the stranger's literary citizenship in this country, which admires distillation, as in, here is my venti cup of suffering, but also complexity, as in, can you detect the floral notes in it? Having fled my home, again, the gossiping bamboos, axe with its face buried in a stump in the yard, the front steps flecked with cigarette ash and occasionally cat piss. Details that for a while kept the sweetness at bay. Sweetness I did not have the webbing to hold and therefore resisted with my life, leaving me brittle, my head a cauldron tipping from side to side, saying yes, 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 in iron urgency. I was strict with it, determined to channel my anger as admonished by the nonprofit feminists. The relief would have been to waste it, to let scald in every direction. Having paid for therapy, hypnotherapy, physiotherapy, Reiki, yoga, having scissored orchids, glaciers, Ganymede, and jellyfish out of the gloss of dead trees. Having kneaded my sore liver in someone's Greenwich apartment while a camera rolled and sunset bled all over the romance of fire escapes. Having framed my face in the toothpaste spackled mirror with post-its of Sharpied affirmations, you are worthy of, insert antonyms of the void. Having planked daily and prayed to herbs, having notated the astrologer's account of my past life, you were either a canon or a pirate. Having finally cast every auntie, cousin, sister, comrade I have failed to avenge or forgive, I can't always tell the difference. In my own ungrateful immigrant version of that scene in the Monkfish episode of It's Okay to Not Be Okay, yes, the K-drama, when Jo Jae-soo, the overlooked friend who wishes he were the beloved brother, tells Moon Gang-tae, it's always those who are weak who act all tough. You weaklings should stick together, then you guys will become invincible. Though my trouble is, I'm not convinced of that final clause, having failed to gather enough evidence of anything beyond the gathering to justify the gathering. Just now, a strong wind blew, which you couldn't tell looking from behind closed doors. The sky remains an unflappable, I almost want to say, elitist blue, except for the trees that immediately surrendered their flags, scattering them to twist separately like confetti, because you can read this poem as a celebration, or children from my part of the world, in cold, so clear and merciless, it is practically an intelligence. All the way here, I asked Google, how does what I believe become what I deserve? What now, if not the brief fellowship of the undefended, our weird, papery dances in waning light? After the funeral, a train of wax paper draped over wobbly-footed tables, the red perfectly matching the towering golden Buddha's loincloth. Lips flap. Planets wound around chopsticks unravel, drip bits of scallion. Our fists fill with bulbs of cheap porcelain. After love, the patient parse of meat from bone, yolk from destiny. Kin do not recognize each other in this steaming nation. A mint leaf on my tongue makes me forget my tongue. Several languages eddy, their thorns snagging through rain's arrhythmia, misunderstanding, our common feast. Auntie, who runs circles around the Hells Angels this side of town with her migrant English and smudge mascara, jumps up after spilling bright orange Fanta on her leather miniskirt. Uncle, who can quote any passage from Corinthians on command, waves his napkin at her moon thigh. I surrender, I surrender. Roses of Sriracha. The wail of sad laughter rocks us on its salty back. It saves us, this indecency. Beyond the glass storefront, gray sonata of city, the juniper's judgment tearing at elbows. A boy with a dead man's name is stitching himself inside a just married teenage girl. She is laughing too, as though she could still belong to anyone. The sun had rendered every pebble and worm like a confession on the opened ground. It cowers now, while our oil-slick teeth grow winter big. Have they forgotten? Have I? To unbutton the hawk from the white and black keys of the piano, to rewrite everything. Thank you.
Wow. Everyone give it up for Cynthia Dewi Oka, who takes our hearts away. Thank you so much. That poet formerly known as activist, really reads like a manifesto or a rallying cry. It's phenomenal. Thank you so much for sharing. And thank you so much to Trapeta, Rajiv, who had to leave, Airea and Courtney. Give it up for all of them. And of course, Cynthia, for bringing us all together so beautifully into this space. And thank you to those in the audience and in the chat today. This has been very special. I know I've been saying this, but Cynthia's book is out now. Get your copy today. She has a launch party tomorrow. We'll drop all the links in the chat in just a moment. But thank you all for coming out to celebrate all the beautiful work. As always, we'll share the recording of today's reading on our event archives, so it'll be available in a day or two if ever you wish to revisit this magical space, and we do this every day at the Rail. So please join us again tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern, when we'll be joined by founding producer and director of the Artist Profile Archive, Sophie Chahinian, alongside participating artists Alice Aycock, John Kessler, Robert Longo, Ark Manero Niles, in conversation with NSE Collins. We'll conclude that beautiful event with a poetry reading by our very own Angela Narciso Torres, who's here in the Zoom with us today, ever the good literary citizen. And that will be at 1 p.m. Eastern, right here in the Zoom tomorrow. Other than that, thank you all so much. This has been really special, and I'll invite you to turn on your microphones so you can say hello to one another, goodbye on your way out, or anything else that compels you. But thank you, Cynthia, so much. Like, all the respect to you, and congratulations on your book.
Thank
Goodbye,
you.
everyone. Thank you so much, Airea, Courtney, everyone in the Zoom.
Thank you, poet.
Thank you, Cynthia. Congrats.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, everyone, for joining
And
today.
congratulations,
Thanks so
Cynthia.
much.
Thank you all.
Bye, gang. All right, should we break for lunch? I know folks have to go and teach. But love and courage. Thank you all so much. This has been fantastic.
Thank you all.
Bye. Bye, Courtney.